Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. And welcome to episode 111. That's right, 111 of Coach Bennett's podcast. 111. What a cool number. 111. I mean, if you're signing up for a race and you're at the bib pickup and you get 111, that's legit. You gotta be feeling like the universe is setting you up for something epic, something awesome. 111? Woo! I think 111. What sounds better? 111, 111, or 111? I don't know. I don't know if end helps in this case. 111. I think 111 sounds better than 111. You really don't need to be spending any time on these questions because they're not even good questions. But we're moving straight into this episode, Setbacks. That's right, it's called Setbacks. Why, you ask? Well, because setbacks are a part of running. They just are. Setbacks are a part of life. So it makes sense that we cover this topic because this podcast is about running. And this podcast is not about running, right? You know that. Of course you do. So we're going to talk about setbacks. And as per usual, so much of this is inspired by so many of you because I talk to so many of you, whether it's in person at events or whether it's through DMs and emails and, hit me up on all those different sites. I'm reading them. I'm paying attention, and I'll tell you what, it's a common occurrence that people are writing me to ask about a setback, maybe one that they're going through right now, or maybe they don't want to go through a certain setback that maybe they've gone through in the past. Maybe they're writing to celebrate the fact that they got through a setback and it did not become a step back, which is fantastic. And I love hearing these messages, so keep them coming. So we want to talk about setbacks. We want to discuss this topic because first and foremost, I just want everyone to know, if you know it or not, they're going to happen. They are going to happen. And if you continue in this sport, the longer you run in this wonderful, wonderful sport, the better you get at this wonderful, wonderful sport, the more setbacks you're going to have. I mean, that's the crazy thing, isn't it? Like, the better you get, which is a product in many cases of how long you commit to doing this. And I hope you commit to doing this for your entire life, because running can be a lifelong sport. But the more committed you are, the longer you hold that commitment. And the more progress you make, the better you get. The more starting lines you cross and great things you accomplish, the more setbacks you're going to have. That's it. I think it would be great to know this early on. And I don't think it's a depressing thing. I don't think it's a negative thing to let athletes know, even at a young age, that, hey, the longer you do this and the better you get at this, the more setbacks you're going to have. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's like if you're the world's greatest pitcher in softball or baseball, or I don't know what they call it in cricket, but it seems like there's a pitcher there throwing the ball at somebody with kind of sort of a smushed flat bat. The point is, if you're the world's greatest pitcher, the reality is very simple. You're probably going to keep racking up wins as you go along, and with those wins are going to come more and more losses. Now, other sports tend to deal with this, I think, in a healthier way because, you have a pitcher who finishes the year 24-12. That's an incredible year. That's an incredible year. Runners, we tend to look at the losses for 12 times. 12 times I didn't get a new PB, or 12 times I didn't achieve what I wanted to in the race, as opposed to you had 24 wins. And the wins doesn't need to mean that you won the race. It could mean that you won the goal you were going after. You accomplished the strategy. You came through with the tactics, right? But too often we measure it by a very narrow definition of what winning means, and winning usually is associated with either a time on a clock or a finishing place. And if we don't measure up to those two metrics, either of them, then it's a loss. It's a failure. It's a setback, right? Well, it doesn't need to be. I mean, on the flip side, I'll give you another example using pitching as a reference. And if you're not a baseball or softball fan, then you're probably like, what are you talking about? But just bear with me here. You could pitch an unbelievable game, an incredible game, and give up one hit, and it's a home run in the third inning. And you give up no other hits, and you lose the game 1-0. Now, is that a terrible performance? No. I mean, most of the time that's going to win. Almost every single time that's going to win in the sport of baseball or softball. But the reality is, in this situation, all it took from the other team was to score one run because your team scored no runs. It still counts as a loss, even though it could be the best you pitched the entire season. It could be the best you've ever pitched in your career, and it counts as a loss. So it's just important to remember that setbacks are going to happen regardless of how you define what a setback is. It's also important, though, to think about how you define setbacks, because you may be defining something that is a step forward, that is a victory, that is progress, as a setback. So just something to think about. But first and foremost, I just wanted to say that obviously they're going to happen. And a lot of times, athletes will say, this is proof that I'm doing something wrong, or this is proof that I've gotten off track. This is proof that I've lost the thread, or I've gone off trail. And no. Setbacks are a part of the journey. They just are. All right? It doesn't mean you're setting yourself up to do these things that we're considering setbacks. The point is, though, is that on this journey, this great adventure, there are going to be setbacks. So it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong, per se, although you might be. And we're going to get to that. All right, so just remember that these things are going to happen, all right? Now, it's okay. This is super, super, super important. It's okay when you're experiencing a setback. When there is a setback, it is okay to be upset. It's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to be disappointed, frustrated, sad, confused, disenchanted. Yes. Now, this is super important because there is a tendency for us to want to sugarcoat things where something doesn't go right. And we're like, look, it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. The point is how much are we going to let it matter? And again, that is also not a bad thing. You can be really, 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 really upset by something that doesn't go right. That's fine. You can be really, 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 really sad that something that you wanted to happen didn't happen, or didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen. All of that is fine. These are emotions. These are feelings. They are real. They are natural. Where I want you to pause is when they start to become their own steps back as a result. I'll give you an example. When I had athletes and maybe we lost something that we really wanted to win, that we had put in an incredible amount of effort and time and commitment to accomplishing this goal, and it didn't work out. One thing that I wanted them to know was they have the space. They have earned the space to be upset. to be disappointed, to be heartbroken. And it's not only nothing wrong with that, it is absolutely right to feel those things. If you commit to something and it matters to you, when you accomplish it, you're going to feel great. That's one of the reasons why you go after these things. You want to feel great. You want to feel exhalation of, you want to exult in the victory, in the achievement, in the accomplishment, right? You're going to feel proud of all the work that you did. It feels like it was worth it. All of these sacrifices you made, these commitments that you kept, it felt worth it. And what a great feeling when it works out. When it doesn't work out, well, the pendulum's going to swing the other way. At least it should. There's no way you're fully committed, invested in something that is going to bring such immense feelings of joy that if it doesn't work out, you're not going to have some feelings of disappointment and sadness. Maybe, like I said, even being heartbroken. That's all right. That's okay. What I used to let the athletes know was, one, this is okay, and I'm proud of them for feeling these things because it is a testament to how much they cared about this journey or this goal, this race, whatever it was we were trying to achieve and accomplish. And go be with those feelings. Be with them. Marinate in those emotions, baby. Then what I want you to do is be proud of yourself for what you took on, the risk you took with your emotions, knowing there was a possibility this wasn't going to work out. And then I want us to think about everything we've accomplished and achieved on our way to coming up short to this achievement and accomplishment. Then we can sit down and we can think about like, hey, are there things we could have done better? Or maybe we did too much of or too little of, things we could have changed, things we would keep the same. We can go back and revisit and think about this journey and how do we want to adjust or improve upon this journey. And that should get us excited. We have upside. We have potential. Just because something didn't work out doesn't mean things didn't work. All right? So one of the things that is really important for you or for your teammates, if you're on a team, for you to let them know, or if you're a coach, for your athletes to know, or even for your coach to know if you're an athlete, is that it's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be upset when there are setbacks, all right? Now, I just hinted at it. One of my favorite parts about coaching is the constant question of why? Why? Like, why did this happen? Why did we improve? Why did we accomplish this? Why did this workout go well? Why did this workout not go well? Why did we come up short? Why did we fail in reaching our goal? Why? I love asking that question. It's interesting to me. It's fascinating to me. I love investigating these things and testing these things and experiencing the changes we make to the template that we had. How do we change season to season? Race to race, and our tactics, our strategy. How do we change our mindset? How do we get physically better and emotionally better and spiritually better during this entire journey towards whatever it is we're trying to do? How do we handle setbacks better? Why did we experience this setback? What happened? This is something I want you to have fun with, or at least have an interest in, asking why. Why did this setback occur? Why did I get injured? Why did my calf seize up on me? Why does it consistently seize up on me in speed workouts towards the end of the season? Why is that? Now, you see, here's an opportunity to improve just by asking why, by spending time with our experiences of, the training that we're doing, the nutrition we're taking on, the recovery that we're experiencing, and how we're going about trying to get ready between workouts and for workouts and after workouts, and how we're handling things during workouts, constantly asking why. There's always something to learn about ourselves with every speed run, with every long run, with every race we do, with every day we live. How we handle ourselves at practice, between practices, after practice, all of these things, our relationships amongst the coaches, the teammates, our friends, our family, all of these things factor in to what happens between that starting line and that finish line. So when you experience setbacks, I think one of the things, after you've dealt with and been in your emotions, I think when you're ready, when you're prepared to say, okay, why? Why did we have this setback? It should be, for lack of a better term, invigorating. To me, it's always inspiring to have these conversations. I'm always motivated after having these conversations because I feel like suddenly in front of us, there's lots of different roads we can take. Athletes too often, after a setback, feel like they've run into a brick wall or a dead end and there's nowhere left to go. I think after a setback, just like after a great breakthrough, there are suddenly new roads that have opened up. Because hopefully after we've asked ourselves why, we're learning what worked and what didn't work, which means there are new opportunities for us to explore on how to continue to progress. So ask yourself why. Now here's something I just want to slide in here before I move on to the next point, which is sometimes there isn't a why. Sometimes there's no explanation. When people say like, everything happens for a reason. No, I don't know about that. I don't know. I have a hard time believing everything happens for a reason, mostly because of what that connotates, that, there's like this higher purpose to something happening. I don't know about that. What I do know is that things happen, and sometimes there is, an explanation for it, and sometimes there's not. And I think when there isn't an explanation for it, that's fine. That's okay. Sometimes things just happen. Why did I get sick? I did everything I was supposed to do. I was so smart about every single thing I was supposed to do. Well, we don't have this 24/7 camera on us, at least not yet, thank God. But the point is, maybe somebody at the place that you picked up your coffee was in a corner and sneezed very lightly, and I don't know, a little bit of that sneeze mist, how gross is that sneeze mist, got on you. And when you're training really strong, when you're training really intensely, it's a fine line that you're running on between sickness and health. You're pushing your body to limits sometimes that it's not used to. Your immune system, you got to be very, very careful with your immune system, which is why I see so many athletes when they're traveling on a plane to an event, they're wearing a mask because they don't want to pick up even the slightest cold. Because when you're trying to be at 100% and you're competing against the top 0.001% of the athletes on the planet, you sometimes can't afford to be at 98%. So yeah, maybe some of that sneeze mist got on your hand, and then you're walking out and you're thinking like, I wasn't near anybody, and you wipe your face. Next thing you know, you got a little bit of a cold that didn't even show up really, but it does show up when you're pushing at 100%. So maybe you don't have a runny nose, and you're not sneezing, and you got watery eyes, and you've got like a thick head. No, but you're at 97%, and you're wondering why things didn't work out. And it was harder than you imagined. Well, because you weren't at 100%. Now, you can wonder what's going on, and you can ask the question of why, and you can figure out lots of different things, and maybe there were things that you could have done better, and maybe there wasn't. But this wasn't a real great estimation of what your fitness was. So it was just a bad race. It was just a setback. It was not a step back, though. All right? So sometimes there is no why, but that will still lead, whether there is a why or there isn't a why, to now what? Now what do we do? That's what I loved to focus on. Once we got through dealing with the emotions, once we got through asking the question of why, then it was now what? Now what do we get to do? That's such an awesome phrase. If you say it out loud, it just sounds really powerful, doesn't it? Like, now what? Like, now what are we gonna do? What's next? Now what? There's so much power. Like, guess what? I'm disappointed with how the race went. My heart's broken. I'm upset. I'm really sad because we put so much into this and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. We just had our long discussion about why we think it happened, some things that we could do better. Like, oh, okay, now what? All right, another starting line awaits. So ask yourself, because it is empowering to ask yourself after a setback, now what? And the reason why I want you to do this and say it out loud, because if your tendency is to go very, very negative, and I'm talking about beyond the normal emotions that are associated with disappointment and sadness and despair, where you start berating yourself, where you start being not critical to build up, but critical to beat down, when you start bad-mouthing yourself, all right? What I want you to do is admit it out loud. So when you say, now what? Well, I'm going to be a crap teammate to myself. I'm going to be a terrible coach to myself. I'm going to weaken my confidence. I'm going to diminish who I am. Just say it out loud. Because I hope that you'll catch yourself and realize just how stupid that is, how counterproductive that is. And I think if you're in this to improve, if you're in this for betterment, if you're in this for progress, I think it really helps sometimes to just admit out loud when you're not doing anything to achieve those goals. I just had a setback, okay? I just went through some tough emotions here, real emotions, and I had a conversation with myself about why I believe this may have occurred, and now I'm just going to sabotage myself. Wait, what? You see, I think it will allow you to say it out loud, to hear what you're saying, to then stop the self-sabotage. So ask yourself, now what? Now what are we going to do? We're just going to sit still, not do anything, not try to get better, not improve upon what we've done, not take the momentum. Because anytime you try to achieve something great, there is awesome momentum forward from that attempt. Yeah, maybe you didn't get as far as you wanted to. Maybe you didn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish, but there is progress forward. Don't waste that progress by taking steps back, by being a terrible teammate, coach, or friend to yourself. So ask yourself, now what? And there's a really good chance, if you do tend to go negative, you will stop yourself from going negative. All right? Now, a couple things I want to sneak in here too is I also think it's good to plan for setbacks. I think since you know, all right, that these things are real, that they're going to happen, that they're a part of the journey, then I think it's also important to plan for them. Now, that's different than me saying, plan setbacks. I'm not saying plan setbacks. I don't want you to plan, coming up short. I don't want you to plan making mistakes on purpose. I don't want you to plan having a terrible strategy or plan terrible tactics or plan overtraining. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm saying plan for things like that happening. Just acknowledging that there's a possibility of those things happening is in a way planning for them, being prepared. It's like people who prep for disasters, that have a bunch of gallons of waters in their garage and some batteries and some food just in case the power goes out for a couple of days. They're not planning the emergency. They're planning for an emergency. Do you see what I'm saying? So plan for setbacks. You can do this by just thinking about it, visualizing it. What happens if this doesn't work out the way I want it to? What happens if I were to get sick or get injured in the midst of a training cycle? What happens if I lose motivation and inspiration? How am I going to deal with that? What would be the best way of dealing with it? What's the equivalent of some gallons of water and some batteries for when I have this setback? Because when these setbacks occur, and as I mentioned at the beginning, they will occur, you will have those things, those emotional batteries, right? Those mindful gallons of water. You might have, a support system around you where people say, I've got the batteries, I've got the waters, and I have access to people in the neighborhood that I can count on. Okay, well, who are the people in your neighborhood that you can count on when you have a setback? Are they teammates? Are they coaches? Are they family members? The people that you want to bring close to help you through these situations, okay? So just plan for setbacks. It doesn't mean plan setbacks, all right? And lastly, be that person. When you're thinking about setbacks, when you're visualizing setbacks, when you've experienced someone else that's gone through a setback and you realize that what they need is someone to lean on. They need some support. They need a great teammate. They need a great coach. They need a great friend. Be that person, yes, for those teammates that are experiencing setbacks, or family members that are experiencing setbacks, or classmates that are experiencing setbacks, but be that person for you too when you experience a setback. Be that person. And you can do that even when you're disappointed, pissed off, angry, sad, disenchanted, confused. You can be that person. You can be that support system that you need. Now, we need other people in our lives without a doubt, but if you're not there for you, it doesn't matter how many other people are there for you. You need to be there too. So be there for yourself and think about how you can show up for yourself when you're experiencing a setback. Don't wait for the setback. In fact, if things are going great right now, this is a great time to do it. Think about how you can show up for yourself. What do you need when you're sad, disappointed, confused, frustrated, angry, pissed off, whatever? What do you need? You know? Like for me, I like, it's great music, really helps. I like to be outside as much as I possibly can. I like to be physically active. These are the types of things that I need. I like to be inspired and motivated, so I like to be surrounded by either people that inspire and motivate me or by stories of people that are inspiring and motivating. These are the types of things that I know I will probably try to push away if I'm upset enough, but I really need something to pull them back towards me when I'm upset enough. So I realize that when I'm going through something that's like a setback in my life, I realize, whoa, don't be pushing these things away. This is what you need. This is what you need. And I'm going to be that person I need. And that's how I'm going to make sure this setback does not become a step back. So be that person for you. Yes, be that person for others, because we are all on the same team. But be that person for you. And like I said, when you go through this setback, it won't be a step back or strides back. It will still be progression forward. It's not going to be easy. Probably isn't going to be enjoyable, right? But it will still be worth it. Because when you decided to take on whatever it is that you decided to take on, when you decided to cross the starting line in the hopes of achieving whatever it is that you wanted to achieve, whether it's finishing a marathon in a certain amount of time or run a 5K in a row without stopping, or, get fitter emotionally through activity, great. When you have that setback, which you will have, it is sign of you moving forward. I always tell people when they hit a barrier, a lot of times they think, I went in the wrong direction. No, it is proof of going in the right direction, because it is proof of forward movement. You ran yourself to this barrier that you did not even know existed probably a few months ago, because it was so far in front of you. Now it's right in front of you, and there will be barriers beyond that. It is proof of progression. Okay? So be that person. And thank you for listening. Thanks for listening to episode 111, 111. You can decide which one you love more than the others, but thanks for listening. I mean, this is pretty cool. This is over 2 years, well over 2 years now, like 2 years and like almost 2 months, 2 years and a month and a half, where there's been a new episode every single week. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing the show. Thank you for following the show, rating the show, reviewing the show. Thank you so much. It really does mean the world to me. And until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll meet you on the next starting line.
Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you haven't already subscribed or set yourself as a follower to the podcast, I really hope you would. And make sure you check out the show notes, because in those show notes, you're going to find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter and all the social media sites I'm on, like Instagram and Threads and Cameo and Blue Sky and Nope, not on that one anymore. So all the ones I am on, you're going to find it in the show notes, so check that out as well. And as always, thank you again for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast. Until next time, you keep taking care of yourself and each other.